I went through real buyer feedback, common complaints, and the kind of details people only bring up after living with these vehicles for a few years. A few of these picks are going to be obvious. A couple of them are genuinely gonna surprise you. And by the end of this list, you might realize the SUV you assumed was the safe choice isn't actually the smartest one for your family. Let's get into it. Number 10 is the Honda Pilot. I've driven a lot of 3-row SUVs over the years, and most of them make you compromise somewhere. A cramped third row, cheap interior plastics, an engine that feels like it's working overtime with a full load. The Pilot is one of the rare ones that doesn't really ask you to give anything up. Step into the second row, and there's real legroom. Fold it forward, and the third row is actually usable by adults, not just kids on a 10-minute drive to school. Car seat anchors sit right where you'd expect them. Here's the part that doesn't show up in any commercial. Ask Pilot owners what bugs them, and the same answer comes up again and again. The thick rear roof pillars create a real blind spot. Power comes from a 3.5-liter V6, making 285 horsepower, paired with a 10-speed automatic that shifts smoothly instead of hunting for gears the way some rivals do. That cargo area holds about 18.6 cubic feet behind the third row, and folding the seats flat opens it up to nearly 87, enough for a serious Costco run or a week of luggage. The trade-off is fuel economy. At around 19 mpg combined, it's not the SUV you want if you're doing heavy daily commuting and watching the gas budget. But if you're after a vehicle proven over a decade of reliability data that doesn't nickel and dime you with surprise repairs, the Pilot earns its spot here. And if all that space sounds great, but you don't actually need a third row, the next one on this list gets you almost everything the Pilot offers in a smaller, easier to live with package.
Number 9, Toyota RAV4. Drive through any neighborhood in America and you'll spot 2 or 3 of these before you reach the stop sign. There's a reason it's been one of the best-selling SUVs in the country for years running. Compared to the Pilot, the RAV4 is a noticeably smaller vehicle, and for a lot of families, that's exactly the appeal. It's easier to park downtown, easier to squeeze into a packed grocery store lot, and it still swallows a stroller, a couple of car seats, and a full trunk of groceries without complaint. I've talked to a lot of RAV4 owners over the years, and the same thing comes up constantly. This is just an easy vehicle to live with. The driving position feels natural from the first time you sit in it, visibility is excellent in every direction, and nothing about the controls takes more than a few minutes to figure out. Here's the part most buyers don't find out until after they've signed the paperwork. Go with better fuel economy and towing capacity drops all the way down to 1,750 pounds compared to 3,500. The hybrid itself is worth talking about on its own. It pushes fuel economy up to around 39 mpg combined, which has made it one of the most requested configurations on dealer lots. The standard 4-cylinder makes 203 horsepower and gets the job done, just without the savings at the pump. Cargo space lands around 37.5 cubic feet behind the rear seats, solid for groceries and weekend bags. The ride is comfortable, just a touch firmer than some competitors over rough pavement. Between the reliability record, the resale value, and how little thought it takes to own one, it's easy to see why the RAV4 keeps showing up on family shortlists. But if 2 rows and 37 cubic feet aren't cutting it for your family, and you actually need real towing muscle, the next SUV on this list does something the RAV4 simply can't.
Number 8 is the Nissan Pathfinder. Picture a weekend where you're not just hauling the kids and their gear, you're also dragging a small boat or a trailer full of camping equipment behind you. That's exactly where the Pathfinder quietly does something most competitors in this segment can't. The cabin feels upscale for the price, with rear seats that recline and a third row that doesn't feel like an afterthought. Families who do a lot of weekend trips appreciate how the second row tilts forward even with a child seat installed, so getting to the third row doesn't mean unbuckling anyone first. Here's the number that surprises most people. Properly equipped, the Pathfinder can tow up to 6,000 pounds. That's actually more than the Honda Pilot we just talked about, which tops out around 5,000. I'll also say this, a lot of Nissan's recent reliability headaches have come from models running the VC turbo engine or a CVT. The Pathfinder has neither. It runs a conventional 3.5-liter V6, making 284 horsepower, paired with a real 9-speed automatic, and that combination has a genuinely solid reliability track record, even if the brand's reputation as a whole hasn't fully recovered yet. Fuel economy lands around 21 mpg combined, and cargo space behind the third row comes in at about 16.6 cubic feet, a little tighter than the Pilot, though the seats fold flat enough to make up for it on bigger trips. If towing capability matters to your family as much as comfort does, the Pathfinder earns its place at number 8. Now, if you don't need 3 rows or that much towing muscle, and you'd rather have something smaller, sharper looking, and loaded with tech for less money, the next SUV is going to catch your attention.
Number 7. Kia Sportage. If RAV4 and CR-V have been the only names on your list, this is the one a lot of buyers skip past without realizing what they're missing. Step inside, and the first thing most people notice is how much more upscale the cabin feels than the price tag suggests. Curved panoramic display, heated and ventilated front seats, and a layout that genuinely feels a step above where the RAV4 sits. Here's something a lot of buyers don't find out until they're already deep into the paperwork. Kia backs the Sportage with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. That's roughly double what Toyota or Honda offers. And for a family planning to keep this vehicle for the long haul, that's real money saved down the road that never makes it into the showroom pitch. The standard engine is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder making 187 horsepower. Fine for daily driving, but noticeably less punchy than some rivals once you're merging with a full cabin. Step up to the hybrid and output jumps to 227 horsepower combined, along with fuel economy in the low 40s mpg. Numbers the gas-only version simply can't touch. Cargo space behind the rear seats comes in around 39.6 cubic feet, which beats the RAV4 by a solid margin, and rear legroom is genuinely competitive for the segment. The one consistent complaint from owners centers on the driver assist tech. The lane-keeping system in particular tends to intervene more aggressively than people expect, tugging at the wheel on curvy roads in a way that takes some getting used to. Even with that, between the warranty, the interior quality, and the price point, the Sportage earns a well-deserved spot at number 7. And if you like everything the Sportage offers but want it from the brand that actually built the platform underneath it, the next SUV on this list is practically its sibling. Number 6 is the Hyundai Tucson. I've said this before about Hyundai and Kia. Under the skin, a lot of their SUVs share more DNA than most buyers realize, and the Tucson is basically the Sportage's cousin, built with a slightly different personality. Where the Sportage leans a little sportier, the Tucson goes for a calmer, more refined feel. The interior is genuinely one of the nicer cabins in this price range. With soft touch materials, a dual panoramic display setup, here's the thing that catches a lot of shoppers off guard. Hyundai actually offers a plug-in hybrid version of the Tucson, something neither the RAV4 nor the CR-V offer at this size. It's good for around 33 miles of pure electric range, which covers most daily school runs and errands without burning a drop of gas, while still giving you a full gas engine backup for road trips. The standard engine is a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder making 187 horsepower. Adequate, not exciting. But the hybrid bumps that up to 226 horsepower combined and noticeably better fuel economy, somewhere in the high 30s mpg. Rear seat space is genuinely generous for a compact SUV, and cargo room behind the rear seats comes in around 38.7 cubic feet, putting it right in line with the Sportage. Now, the honest downside, Hyundai's reliability reputation still trails Toyota and Honda in long-term surveys, and a 10-year-old Tucson is statistically more likely to need attention than a 10-year-old RAV4. For the warranty period, that's not an issue. Past it, it's something to think about if you plan on keeping this vehicle for the very long haul. That said, with the warranty coverage, the tech, and the plug-in hybrid option in particular, the Tucson earns its spot here. If you're finding this breakdown useful, go ahead and subscribe. It helps a lot. Number 5. Kia Telluride. On paper, this shouldn't be as good as it actually is. Normal-sized engine, normal price, nothing that should make it stand out on a spec sheet. Then you actually sit in one, and it's hard not to ask how Kia pulled this off for under 50 grand. One detail that genuinely surprised me, between the Telluride and a Cadillac Escalade that costs nearly $80,000 more, only one of them offers ventilated second-row seats, and it's not the Escalade.
The cabin feels genuinely upscale with seating for up to 8 depending on configuration, and even the base trim comes with features other brands reserve for their top-tier packages. Power comes from a 3.8-liter V6 making 291 horsepower. Body control is tighter than you'd expect, and the ride manages to stay smooth without feeling soft or disconnected. Here's the part that matters most for families planning to keep this thing long-term. The Telluride consistently ranks as one of the most reliable mid-size SUVs you can buy. Equipped with all-wheel drive, there's even a button that locks the front-to-rear torque split at 50/50 for genuinely useful off-road capability, not just marketing fluff. If there's a real downside, it's that the Telluride's popularity means you'll rarely find one discounted, and used examples hold their value almost stubbornly well. Great for resale, less great if you're trying to negotiate a deal. All things considered, the Telluride earns one of the highest spots on this list. And if you love everything about it but wish it had a slightly jazzier, more upscale look, stick around, because its closest relative shows up later on this list, and it pushes the formula even further. Number 4 is the Honda CR-V, specifically the CR-V Hybrid. I've worked on enough hybrids over the years to know the difference between a gimmick and something actually built to last, and the CR-V Hybrid falls firmly in the second category. Start with the fuel economy. Around 40 mpg in real-world driving with all-wheel drive and room for 5 adults. That's a genuinely rare combination. And it matters even more once you start thinking about what gas prices could look like a few years down the road. Here's what actually separates it from a lot of hybrid competitors. Honda's hybrid system has already logged millions of real-world miles globally, and the complaint rate on it is remarkably low. Owners aren't reporting battery failures or sketchy electronics, which is more than you can say for some hybrid systems still working out their early kinks. The interior strikes a nice balance. Comfortable seats, genuinely good rear legroom for a compact SUV, and a cargo area that holds around 36.3 cubic feet, expanding significantly with the rear seats folded. Honda sensing comes standard across the lineup, with adaptive cruise, lane keeping assist, and collision mitigation braking. Now, the honest trade-off. The CR-V doesn't offer a third row at all. So if your family has more than 5 people who regularly need seats, this one's off the table, no matter how much you like everything else about it. But for a family that needs comfort, efficiency, and rock-solid dependability without 3 rows of seating, the CR-V Hybrid is one of the smartest picks on this entire list. Number 3 is the Mazda CX-5. I'll be honest, I didn't expect this one to stand out the way it does. It feels like a BMW, drives like a Honda, and won't wreck your budget getting there. There's no hybrid system here, no fancy electric drivetrain, just a 2.5-liter engine that's smooth, responsive, and backed by some of the best reliability scores in the compact SUV class. After talking to a lot of owners, one thing comes up again and again. Very few complaints about mystery warning lights or failed sensors, even well past the 50,000-mile mark. Slide into the cabin and you'd swear it costs $10,000 or $15,000 more than it does. Real stitching, solid tactile buttons, and a layout that actually makes sense. None of the screen overload or gimmicky touch controls you find in some pricier competitors. Steering is crisp, body roll is minimal, and the whole chassis feels tuned more like a sports sedan than a family crossover. Here's the number that matters most for families specifically. Cargo space comes in at around 30.9 cubic feet behind the rear seats. Depreciation is surprisingly tame for a vehicle this fun to drive. Unlike a lot of sportier crossovers that lose value fast after 3 years, the CX-5 holds on to its resale price because demand for used ones stays consistently strong. Number 2, the Hyundai Palisade. If you liked everything about the Telluride a few spots back, but wanted a different look and a slightly more luxurious feel, this is its closest relative. And in some ways, it pushes the formula even further. For 2026, the Palisade went through a full redesign, and it shows. It's bigger, more spacious, and now available with either the regular V6 or a new hybrid drivetrain. Both are genuinely good, but the hybrid is hard to argue against once you experience the extra power and noticeably better fuel economy. The interior is where the Palisade really separates itself. Top trims get genuinely close to Genesis-level finishes and refinement, something you don't expect to find one rung below Hyundai's luxury brand. Depending on configuration, seating goes up to 8, and interior space is genuinely generous enough that this genuinely works for larger families who need real room, not just the appearance of it. Here's the honest trade-off though. Hyundai's long-term reliability reputation still isn't quite where Toyota's or Honda's is, and because this is a freshly redesigned model for 2026, there's the usual first-year redesign risk that comes with any brand new platform. Hyundai does back it with one of the strongest warranties in the industry, which takes a lot of that risk off the table for the first several years of ownership. Between the size, the luxury feel, and the warranty coverage, the Palisade earns one of the top spots on this list.
Number 1 on this list is the Honda Passport. If you've always liked the boxy, rugged look of something like a 4Runner or Land Cruiser, but didn't want to deal with the truck-like ride that comes with a body-on-frame SUV, this is the one that actually solves that problem. Because the Passport shares its platform with other Honda crossovers rather than a truck frame, it drives noticeably more comfortably than its rugged looks suggest. There's none of the stiff, jittery ride you get from genuinely off-road focused SUVs. And because it runs the same proven 3.5-liter V6 found in the Pilot, you're getting smooth, dependable power with a reliability track record that's hard to argue with. Here's the detail that surprised a lot of owners during a recent update. Honda skipped cylinder deactivation and CVT gimmicks entirely on this engine, going all in on a conventional transmission and a timing chain instead of a belt. For a family planning to keep a vehicle for the long haul, that's a meaningful decision, even if it never shows up in the brochure. The interior is well-designed, feature-packed, and genuinely spacious for a 2-row midsize SUV, with cargo space that easily handles road trip luggage, sports gear, or a serious grocery run without any creative stacking required. The honest downside is price. The Passport sits at the higher end of what you'd expect to pay for a 2-row midsize SUV, and you are paying a premium for that off-road look and Honda badge. But when you add up the comfort, the proven reliability, the genuine all-weather capability, and a driving experience that doesn't punish you for daily use, the Honda Passport earns the number 1 spot on this list. If your family wants real space, real dependability, and a vehicle that's going to look as good in 5 years as it does today, this is the one to put at the top of your shortlist. Let me know in the comments which one of these you'd actually park in your driveway, and if this saved you some research time, the subscribe button is right there for the next one.